Hey guys, and welcome back to another Shadow Priest Mythic Plus commentary video. Sorry, this one starts really quick, so I need to talk a little fast. So this one is a 20 Mists of Tirna Scithe. I forgot to hit the record button until like right at 6 seconds on the countdown, so... Okay, so 20 Mists of Tirna Scithe. I'm still Eventhier for this key, because it's during that same push week as the Spires that the Spires 20 that I posted before. So I'm still Eventhier here. I'm running Searing Nightmare, and this is part of the reason why. We have several pulls that are just like this, with like 9, 10, 11 mobs all right on top of each other. So what we like to do is we pull that 5 Spike Claw pack into this Villager pack, and then we pop Lust and we pop all our cooldowns. So as you can see, we're all doing around 20k DPS, which is pretty good. And then what we try to do is, because we have a Fire Mage, and he's running Flame Patch, which means that every time he casts Flame Strike, it leaves a little burning area on the ground. Something that we try to do is when that Overgrowth goes on us, we try to stand, like this one on me right now, I'm trying to stand close to like melee, so that first off they can cleave me down, and then second off, if it's in the middle of the Fire Mage's combust, it pretty much instantly dies, because his Ignite just does so much damage that one tick of his Ignite will break you out of that Overgrowth. So that's like a little thing that you can try to do whenever you're in a pack, like a really big pack like that, and you're gonna get Overgrowth on you or something similar that's like they need to do damage to you to break you out of it. Stand in melee so that they can cleave you while they're doing damage to the mobs instead of just hitting you, right? So this next pull, we've got a couple Harvesters and a couple Soul Cleavers. The Soul Cleavers are pretty deadly for the tank, and the Harvesters are really deadly for everybody else. So a Spirit Bolt just got off right there. It hits me for 50% of my HP, almost exactly 50%. Wow. Yeah, so those Spirit Bolts need to be kicked like crazy. So you can Ring of Peace, you can stun them, you can interrupt them, all that stuff. So Psychic Scream works. The Disorient from Door of Shadows, if you're playing Nadia, that works. All that stuff works. So Psychic Horror, right there I get smacked by a Spiteful and he almost one-shots me. Spiteful is one of those really annoying affixes that you just kind of, it's like not super hard to play around most of the time, but it is pretty annoying. So you have to be pretty careful to see where those guys are coming out and try and not get smacked by them. The other thing I'll mention is that I'm running Sinful Revelation as my weapon enchant. That is just because we did this key right after doing our mythic raid for the week, and I run Sinful Revelation in raid. I would rather run Celestial Guidance during Mythic Plus, but I forgot to change it. So, and it costs like a decent amount of money to change it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth all the time. Oh, the other thing I should mention is we're not running with our Holy Paladin on this key. So our Holy Paladin was busy, or maybe she wasn't around. Actually, I think she went and got food or something after raid, so we decided to pick up one of our other healers from the guild. He's the Resto Shaman who's healing us right now. So we get access to a lot of the more meta healing cooldowns. So like before you saw that Spirit Link totem went down, we get stuff like that, which is really unusual for us. So it makes the healing situation in this key a little different than usual, right? Because a Resto Shaman heals differently than a Holy Paladin, right? So, like, I'm not sure if popping my Vampiric Embrace here is needed or not. I know that Resto Shamans typically have an easier time healing Pridefuls, so I'm not sure if it's a good idea to use mine here or not. But, honestly, there's not going to be another time that I'm going to need my Vampiric Embrace for a while, so I may as well use it on this Prideful. I'm not sure if I do or not, but yeah, I do right there, so... this is a good time to use it just to help out. Regardless of if the healer could manage this by himself, it's one global for me, and it helps with, the overall healing and allows our healer to maybe save some mana or save some cooldown that he might have had to use otherwise. So it's just worth using. So right here, we're going to move into this first boss, Ingra Malak. This is a moment where Sinful Revelation is actually pretty good. So if I can get Sinful Revelation on Ingra during the burn phase, I'll end up doing more damage than I would if I had Celestial Guidance, which is, maybe on a high Tyrannical key that could be worth it, but I think most of the time you're going to want Celestial Guidance anyway, so you'll notice I'm saving all my cooldowns. My Power Infusion is up, my Void Eruption is up. I'm saving those because, we get a Repulsive Visage right here, and that's one of the good things from a Resto Shaman. He's got a Tremor Totem, which just instantly gets us out of that. And then right here, the boss is about to phase, so I'm going to start popping all my cooldowns. I pop Power Infusion on the Fire Mage, and then I, Void Eruption and start blasting. So this would be a good time to cast my Void Torrent during this Void form. Like right now I should start it, yeah. Because my Void form lasting super long is less important than doing as much damage as possible within that burn phase. So technically, if I had not cast my Void Torrent right then, and I had just kept doing my regular Void Bolt rotation, right? My Void form would have lasted longer, which would have translated into more damage on this Simp tree. But those burn phases are very, very key for this boss fight, especially the higher you go. You want to only ever have 2 burn phases, or else this boss fight is just going to take way too long and you're not going to be able to time the key. So it's very, very important, especially on that first burn phase, when I'm popping my my potion and my Power Infusion and everything. It's very important that I do as much damage as possible. So I get more damage out of my Void Torrent than I would, and the damage is going on to Ingra specifically. It's more important that I get more damage on him than I do on the tree. So that's why I popped my Void Torrent right there, is because all of those reasons I just said, we need to burn him as fast as possible in that little phase. So we get another phase right here. I pop my my Shadow Fiend, and then I'm going to pop my Void Eruption as soon as it's up. All Devouring Plague right after, and then we're just trying to finish this guy as fast as possible. This is one of the rare moments that Mind Games is good in Mythic Plus. A Mind Games single target nuke like that during one of these burn phases on a boss can do a lot of damage. So this is like one of the very, very few moments where being a Venthyr Shadow Priest is probably better just for that one fight, because you're just going to get a pretty big Mind Games proc. But on the other hand, if you're playing Night Fae, you'll have 2 Void Forms and you'll get more damage out of that. So who knows whether, well, I'm pretty sure that the Night Fae is better. So, but that's one of those few moments where it's not so bad playing a Venthyr Priest. For anyone who didn't see my Spires of Ascension video that I just posted, I have officially swapped off of Venthyr and onto Night Fae. So this is the last week that I will be playing a Venthyr Shadow Priest, just because, similar to what I was just saying, there are like no good use cases for Mind Games inside of Mythic Plus. The majority of your Mythic Plus dungeons are trash, and Mind Games does almost nothing when it comes to trash damage, because it only hits one target, right? And the Covenant ability from Night Fae, Fae Guardians, gets you more Void Forms over the course of the key, and that benefits trash, but it also benefits bosses, so it's by far better in Mythic Plus. Now, I'm not positive if Necrolord or Night Fae is the better choice when it comes to Mythic Plus. I have not played Necrolord at all on live servers. I've played it a little bit on the tournament realm, but not very much. And I know Necrolord is definitely still a good option, but Night Fae just seems so strong to me, so I have officially swapped. So if you're looking for more, if you have questions about playing a Venthyr Shadow Priest in particular, I can answer those if you leave a comment or join my Discord or whatever. Because as you can tell, I have played quite a lot of Venthyr Shadow Priest. But in the future, you will not be seeing more Venthyr keys because, I swapped to Night Fae. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking for that kind of thing, if you need videos to watch of people playing Venthyr Shadow Priest, then unfortunately that's not going to be me for much longer. So I should have a couple videos after this one coming out that are I'm still playing a Venthyr Shadow Priest, and you could watch any of my old ones. where I was playing Venthyr, but moving forward, it's just going to be all Night Fae all the time until something changes in the meta and everybody starts going Kyrian for some reason. But yeah, so for the foreseeable future, I'll be Night Fae. So, so moving into this maze, we're about to start on the Matriarch. This is a time where our Lust is coming off in 7 seconds. This is a good time for our Lust. I pop Power Infusion on the Fire Mage, he combusts. Honestly, now we probably shouldn't Lust because there's just not enough health left on this Matriarch. I think we were moving just a little too quick because we were planning on Lusting here, but we got here before when we planned. We were planning on getting here with Lust already off cooldown, but it still had like 10 seconds when we started this pull. Our Shaman gets hit by that frontal right there. So if we had Lust at the very beginning of this pull, we would have used it, but since we didn't, by the time the boss was at like 57% HP is when our Lust debuff fell off. So we're better off saving it and using it on one of the future trash pulls. So we're going to move into this Prideful. Usually what we do, by the way, is the healer runs around and does the maze while everybody else is doing their damage. The healing is usually not super hard in these maze rooms, and it's easier if people are killing stuff, and it's just kind of the way that the community as a whole has decided the maze is going to work. It's pretty much like any group that you go in. If the healer is not doing it, then people are going to be like, yo, what's this healer doing? Although I will say that there's an alternative strategy you can do where if you have ranged players, they just go stand by one of the pedestals, and it makes it easier on the healer. And maybe that's what we should do, is just have the ranged players stand by the pedestals so that our healer doesn't have to run around the whole time. Because as a ranged player, you can just go stand by it so that they can see it and then just do your damage like regular. But this is where we decide to Lust. We were trying to find a place to Lust, and this is like a 5 or 6 pack, so it ends up being where we do it. I am running Searing Nightmare in this key, and right there, I Power Infuse the Mage. We're blasting, right? And we don't get full value out of our Lust here because that pull is just not big enough. We have 15 more seconds on Lust, and right now we're just waiting for Shades to die so that we can move on. So, probably not the best use of Lust there. It may have even been better to still use it on the Matriarch. And that's just one of the bigger decisions that we, who knows if it was the correct one. Looking back at it like this, it's kind of hard to say either way. We did end up killing that pack pretty quickly. Right there, I almost get one shot by the Stalker biting me. We did kill that pack pretty quickly, so maybe it was worth it, and the Matriarch didn't have a ton of health, so who knows whether it was correct or not, but something to be looking at. If you do find yourself wondering, how could I have played this dungeon better? How can I get better as a Shadow Priest? I get that question a lot in my Discord specifically, and my favorite answer is, so first off, if you're watching this video right now, you're already doing something right. So the first step to getting better as a player is to try and find people who are doing better than you, right, and emulate what they do. I know that kind of sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, conceited, right, but honestly, that's the truth. I'm watching streams of Shadow Priests all the time, trying to figure out, what can I change to maybe improve my gameplay as well. So it's not just for, people who aren't doing 15s or aren't doing 17s or whatever. Regardless of what you do, the number one step is to try and find people who are better than you and learn from them, right? Which you're already doing by watching this video. So then the second step would be record yourself. So if you have a computer that can handle running recording software as well as WoW at the same time, then you want to, record as many of your Mythic Plus runs as possible, and then, maybe on a day that you're not super busy, maybe it's on a weekend or something where it's not a push week, so you're not doing a ton of dungeons, and it's not your raid day, so you're just chilling. That's a great time to go back and watch your Mythic Plus runs that you've done, and just just turn it on and watch it while you're doing whatever. So even if you're not like analyzing it super hard, and maybe you don't know exactly like what the right decision to make in the scenario is, as long as you're watching it, you're better off than somebody who's just doing it and never watching it to see how they can improve, right? So yeah, that would be my that's the biggest piece of advice I give people when they ask me how to get better. It's just record yourself and watch what you're doing, and then pause it every so often and think, okay, what do I have? What's the situation like right here? What are some good things that I could do in this situation? And then after you have decided what the good things to do are, think about, what things did I do, and were they the good things? And if not, how can I, mitigate the bad things that I'm doing, right? Just so that you can kind of get that in your mind, so that the next time you're in that situation, you can think, while you're trying to make that split-second decision, you can think, oh, I remember watching this video. Maybe I'll Shadow Crash here instead of, casting Mindseer or whatever, right? So that's the second thing that I would tell people, is to record yourself and watch it back. So right here, my Power Infusion comes off cooldown again. I throw it on our Mage to help with getting his Combust off cooldown. And then, yeah, we're just going to finish off this Mistcaller. It's just a single target fight for most of it. Usually I pop my Void Form right at the beginning of the fight, so that I get a full Void Form in by the time the first guessing game goes out. Trying to get as many Void Forms as possible in this fight is kind of hard, and this fight really lines up pretty badly for Shadow Priest, because you get guessing games every so often, and it's hard to get full Void Forms and stuff like that. So the best thing you can try to do is as much damage as possible during those guessing games, and then try to keep up your dots and everything during this phase 1 where it's just you and the Mistcaller. Something else that I'll mention is, if you've watched my previous Mists of Tirna Scithe videos, you'll know that we like to Dragon's Breath those foxes that fixate on people. They fixed that. So nowadays, I Psychic Scream them a lot, and it'll just make them run away for like 7 seconds. But then after they're done running away, they will always recast their Fixate spell. So you cannot make those fox guys not dangerous anymore. They're always going to be dangerous. So you have to either stun them, paralyze them, Psychic Scream so they run away. Whatever you do, after the CC falls off, they will cast it again. So the days of just ignoring that mechanic are over. So there are a lot of little changes that they've made to dungeons so far, that like the mushroom thing that you could do at the beginning of Mists of Tirna Scithe, you can't do that anymore. Before, you could go in on Mythic 0 and you could run to the mushrooms, you could grab a mushroom and then start the key, and you would still have the mushroom buff. That has changed. They changed that a couple weeks ago, so now you can't do that. You'll just lose the buff if you do that. But you can still get it during the dungeon, you just can't get it before the dungeon. So, and honestly, I think that's a good thing. It wasn't intended, so it's fine that you can't do that anymore. And yeah, they like fixed the Sanguine Depths trick, where you would pop the bucket before, or the lantern thing. You would use that before the key, and you would have the buff, and it would carry over into the dungeon. You can't do that anymore. So a lot of little things like that have been changed, which is honestly good for the health of the game, because then people who don't know those little tricks don't get left out. So yeah, so we're going into this Manifestation of Pride. You'll notice I popped my Void Eruption on that 3-pack. That was a good use of my cooldowns. So because of this Manifestation of Pride, I'm going to have my Void Eruption up for this next pull. And this next pull is when I really, really need to have all of my cooldowns, because it's going to be really, really big. So I have my Void Eruption and my Power Infusion. I'm ready to blast. We're going to pull these guys on the right, and we're going to pull those guys on the left. And we're going to try not to get those Reavers, because those Reavers hurt super, super bad. Although, if I remember correctly, I think this pull goes a little south for us, but I guess we'll see. So I have our Fire Mage targeted right here, because I'm going to hit him with my Power Fusion. I do it. And then I Void Eruption. I start spamming Searing Nightmare. I get like 1,000,000 volcanoes by me, so I run out of that pretty quick. And then, yeah, I'm just blasting my my Searing Nightmare like crazy. Actually, this ends up going really well for us, it looks like. So you'll notice I didn't use my Void Bolt like at all right there. Void Bolt is good for extending your Void forms. I'm running Hungering Void in this key, so Void Bolt is pretty important to keep my Void form up. But because that pack is all stacked up, and I don't need to like make my Void form last super long, and I don't have Vampiric Touch on anything in that pull, I think I'm better off just spamming Searing Nightmare. Although, if that pack were to go a little bit longer and we didn't have as much damage or something, then, it would be better to put Vampiric Touch on stuff and start using more Void Bolts. But it all dies really quick, and it's probably just not worth it to spend the global to use a Void Bolt when I could be using a Searing Nightmare, so... Yeah, so then we go into this 4-pack. The only thing to worry about is the mob that I'm targeting right now, the Staghorn. It does the shield, it does the heal. And then those acid globules that the other guys cast, you need to avoid those. You can Psychic Scream these guys so that they don't cast those globules. We sweeping leg kick them right there so that it stuns them all, which is nice. And then you just want to try and keep stuff close together and cast as many Searing Nightmares as possible when things are stacked up, and when you're below like 5 or 6 targets or whatever, you want to just spam Searing Nightmare. So okay, we're moving into this Prideful. I popped my Void Eruption for it. I still have my Power Infusion, and I do have my Vampiric Embrace ready, so I should use that here probably. I don't know if I do or not, but that's something that I could do. That would help with the healing and make things easier. Again, I use my Mind Games on this guy, which is nice, right? This is another moment where Mind Games is pretty good, but they're just few and far between, so it's not worth it overall. I do pop my Vampiric Embrace, start healing some people up. I'm running Dissonant Echoes, so I use my Dissonant Echoes procs whenever I can, and we kill the Prideful. Not too bad. Okay, so now we're moving into this next pull. It's going to be a 2 pull, so we're going to pull this big pack and the next one. It's got several non-elites, so this looks a lot bigger than it is. Don't get me wrong, this is a big pull, but it's got those larvae. Those larvae are not dangerous at all, and they're all going to die pretty quickly. So it's really not a huge pull. So it's not worth lusting this probably. And yeah, we're just going to, I'm just going to Searing Nightmare spam like crazy because we have a lot of targets on top of each other. I did put Vampiric Touch on almost everything right there. And then as this stuff is dying, I'm not going to keep putting it on there. I Door of Shadows across because the Spiteful are going to start spawning, and I want to be on this side of them so that I can move on to the next pack. That's the kind of positioning thing that you need to look for when you're watching your own keys. And then we're going to go into this next pull. Right here is a crucial decision. So we have almost 7 minutes left on the timer, and we decide to do this pull. We have Lust up, and we have all of our cooldowns. What we should have done here, in my opinion, is we should have just pulled the boss, and then come back and finished off our trash count afterward. Because what we're going to do instead is we're going to do this pack and then another pack so that we get Prideful, and then we're going to kill the Prideful, and then we're going to do the boss. And I don't think that's worth it, because Prideful takes, maybe a minute, maybe 45 seconds if you're fast. And so that's a bunch of time that you have to commit to it. And then also, we're just sitting on our Lust for a long, long time here. We're only going to get one more Lust in this dungeon, so it doesn't matter that we use it as fast as possible. But we finished this pack. This pack took almost a minute, as you can see at the bottom middle of the screen. 51 seconds to kill that pack, and it's still not dead. And then we're going to go over our trash percentage with this next pull. And after we kill this next pull, we still have to do a Prideful before we can fight the boss. So this pull, we'll see how long this one takes. But we could be fighting the boss right now, right? And then after we kill the boss, if we come finish our trash percentage, we don't ever have to kill this last Prideful. So, in my opinion, and I mentioned this while we were doing the key, I said, hey, we should just do the boss right now. And there was a little bit of debate as we were running over here, and we decided to go with this. I'm not the shot caller for our team usually, So it's fine that we ended up doing this. We should, follow one person's call. We shouldn't just be like, oh, well, I think it's better to do this. Let's randomly go do something else, right? Because that doesn't make for a very cohesive team. But yeah, this pull also took almost a whole minute, and now we're just barely pulling the Prideful. We've wasted almost 2 whole minutes. We don't have to fight this Prideful at all if we do the boss first, and we'll see how long this one takes. But yeah, so I think that was a bad decision on our part, and now we're over percentage by quite a bit, right? We have Spitefuls that are spawning and coming towards us, and we're still sitting on Lust. I mean, all our cooldowns are going to be up for the boss, which is nice, but they would have been up anyway, so that's all I'll say about that. I think that it's worth looking, especially in Mists of Tirna Scithe. It's kind of hard to get a route planned out because the maze is random every time, so sometimes you find yourself with way more percent than you were planning on, and in those cases, you kind of have to make a decision on the fly. And I think we made the wrong decision here. So we're down to 4 minutes left on the timer, and we haven't pulled the last boss. The boss would probably be dead by now if we had done the boss first, and we could be moving into the trash packs right now. But regardless, this is what we ended up doing, so we're going to move into the boss. I have 9 seconds on my power infusion. I will probably put it on the Fire Mage, although maybe I'll put it on the Monk. We'll see where it goes. I'm just doing my regular... Okay, yeah, so I put it on the Fire Mage. He just finished his Combust, so it's not great on the Fire Mage, but my alternative is the Monk, and the Monk already used all of his cooldowns too. So it really doesn't matter. As long as I use it, it's good, right? I'd rather use it than not use it, so... Yeah, so we're going to do all of our cooldowns and everything and start blasting this boss. Just trying to keep all 3 dots up at all times. Something I did there, as a Blood Elf, if you get to 35 Insanity, you can use Arcane Torrent. It will give you the extra 15 you need to hit 50, and then you can cast a Devouring Plague. That's a really, really tiny thing that only Blood Elves can do, so if you're not playing a Blood Elf, don't worry about it. But if you are playing a Blood Elf, that's something good to know. Arcane Torrent gives you 15 Insanity, so if you're ever like Insanity starved and you're waiting and waiting and waiting to cast something, Arcane Torrent is an okay thing to cast, because although it does no damage, it can put you at the 50 Insanity you need for a Devouring Plague or something, right? So, yeah, so this is going to be pretty much the end. I fade every time those larvae come out. I don't know if that actually affects anything. I'm pretty sure they just choose someone at random, but I do fade every time. In case, sometimes they do have threat on you and they'll run towards you before they choose somebody, so maybe it helps with that, but... I'm mostly doing single target damage here, although you do need to kill these larvae as fast as possible, so a couple Searing Nightmares is not such a bad thing. But yeah, I don't think that the other people in my group are better off killing those larvae than I am, so... I mean, you should try and help, but we do need to kill this boss as fast as possible. So yeah, we're going to end up with less than 2 minutes left on the timer. Who knows which way it would have gone had we done the boss first, but yeah, that's about the end of the key, so we got like one more interrupt we have to do. We need to break this mind link. Luckily I'm standing far enough away it goes on nobody, and bada bing bada boom, that's the end of the key. I end up doing 6k overall DPS. Not horrible, but not great. In the future, as a Night Fae, I should do closer to 7k, maybe a little over 7k, so hopefully that'll be a big change. I want to say thanks for watching. Feel free to join my Discord. Catch you guys later. Peace.